it can't be. The thing about questioning is whether it be a podcast or whether you be a leader or whether you're doing sales, it should never feel like an interrogation. And if it's too many questions, then it just feels like an interrogation. Nobody wants to be on the spot and have to be sort of constantly like that. So it's a nice break for anyone when the podcast host, as an example, shares a little bit about them. And when that happens, as you have been doing, sharing a little bit about your thoughts around acting and the actors, and as communicators, and sharing a bit of your best successes and your worst successes, your worst experiences, you're creating connection with me. And so I feel a bit safer. I don't feel like you have a hidden agenda where you're going to maybe take me. I feel like we're connecting. And I think that's, again, at the heart of whether a podcast or anything, is that it's how can I connect with this person? And when you self-disclose a little bit, but know that you're not putting the focus completely on yourself, you're still keeping the focus on the other person, then you're creating that safety in the conversation.
How have you evolved as a podcast host? Someone listened to your first couple of podcasts versus your most recent. What would they notice? And what are you conscious of having tried to actively improve?
When I was in university many years ago, I was also the host of like a radio show that was doing theater critic and film criticism. So you couldn't sort of stream things at the time. You were just listening to the regular radio. And again, there was just CBC radio. And CBC radio was like sort of like BBC radio. There was a sort of voice like, "You're listening to CBC radio. Tonight's episode is," there was that voice. And so when I was doing the reviews, I would do that voice, which is not me. And so that was, even when I started podcasting, it was the same thing. As you sort of play it back and go, "Oh, I'm doing that CBC voice again. I'm not being myself. I'm trying too hard to be professional." And I think that's what gets in the way for so many people, is they try too hard to be professional as opposed to take the focus off myself, put the focus on the guest.
And unfortunately, I'm sure you experience this. So many people think professional is speaking at the same tone and the same volume and the same speed, and it's boring. They're afraid to use the full range of their voice. I mean, to be captivating, as you know, with an actor, you got to sometimes be high and low and fast and slow. It's the roller coaster that makes it fun and exciting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Joel, we really appreciate your time. Again, Joel Silverstone has been our guest today. If you want to know more about him and perhaps listen to his podcast, the podcast is called This Feels Right. And is it available? We have a web address for it. We'll be posting that in the description and the show notes.
Yeah.
Is it also available on Spotify, iTunes, all the normal places?
Everywhere. You can listen to it's TFR, This Feels Right, the podcast. Every Spotify, iTunes, everywhere. It's also available on YouTube as well. There's a YouTube channel for it as well. And then more recently, I was doing the Great Canadian Leadership Training podcast. Same thing. You can check that out everywhere. If you're looking, again, we had lots of amazing leaders on that. And so you could listen to that as well. And then, do connect with me on LinkedIn. I share a lot of great tips on LinkedIn, but also I love to follow other people's journeys as well as to what they're doing as well. And so do connect with me on LinkedIn. And my Instagram is also This Feels Right Instagram. So, I'll post little videos there and that kind of material. So do check. I'm not on TikTok, but there we go. Instagram and Twitter or X. As well. This Feels Right on X.
I am on TikTok right now, but maybe no one in the United States will be on it a few months. But we'll table that debate for another time. Joel, you've heard the expression, the cobbler's children wear no shoes. Sometimes that happens even to people like you and me, because I know we both advise to clients before every presentation, ask yourself, what is it you want this audience to do?